Okay, we can do some more ability stuff like we've been doing lately, quite a lot of actually, lately. Let me check if Twitch now actually is working because I tested this a little bit earlier today. And it seemed to be working. So we can do that as a test. It seems like it is live. It's not showing any image. So that's a little worrying. But I guess we will see how we end up going with all that. Yeah, the dashboard is just... Maybe it's the dashboard that was fucked. Maybe earlier, like last week, it was just working to begin with. Because... it says live. It doesn't show any, like, image. We'll see how we end up going on the Twitch side of things. But yeah, we're gonna do some more ability stuff here today. I love the art style. Thanks. I mean, aside from the fact that this is obviously like block out stuff, I do like the cell shading thing that we have going on here. It's causing a lot more work in the end, but it'll look better. So I have a list here in my Obsidian Vault. Hey, there we go. For a couple of abilities that I still want to do. This one is going to require some animation, which means that we're not going to do it today because I've been reworking my player model and my player skeleton and rig and everything. So anything to do with animation is going to be pushed off a little bit. This requires a model that I don't have at the moment, as well as real-time IK. So I still need to look into how to achieve that because it's been one of those things that I've been like, it'll be good to figure out how to work with that. I know the basic idea of like setting up a fabric node. I was just trying to play a little bit with it today and it just didn't want to work, and I need to look into it. That leaves us with these. The icicle shards, the meteor strike, the spikes are going in a like line between the player and the target, and 0 gravity. This one is going to require some visual effects work. So this is only if the rest of them already are finished and we have time left over. We'll maybe do a little bit about this. But for the most part, we're going to be doing the other 3, hopefully, today, which will get us to a pretty finished to-do list as far as abilities go for the time being. Of course, there's going to potentially be more and more abilities added as we go along with the rest of development. Couple variations, you know, a fire version and like an electric version and then like an ice version of a couple of things. But for the most part, we'll have like 25 abilities. If we duplicate a couple of them, we'll get to like 30 some. Adding in a couple more, we might make it to like 40, at which point I think that's like pretty fair. Also, actually, I had an idea. Because I've been playing Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, right? And there's one ability that's just kind of like overpowered in that, but I want to make one that's slightly less overpowered, and we'll make that something like a fire dash, and we can make a electric and an ice dash as well. This is one of those that's kind of like easy to duplicate, most likely, and will effectively work the same. It's just maybe you have like the materials to make one and not the other. I've gone over this in the past. This entire ability system isn't necessarily meant for you to unlock every ability in a single playthrough. If I have it my way. There's definitely like a lot of this is based on like random drops from enemies. So ideally, maybe the slight randomness will make one playthrough just not have the luck to unlock certain abilities, and as such you have a little bit of variance between like different replays. or you want to go like 100%, and then you're gonna have to like grind a little bit to like get all of these drops. That's the idea. So that's why I don't really mind having just the same ability with a different skin, because it makes you able to unlock the like overarching ability, which in this case would be like Fire Dash or Thunder Dash or whatever, through a couple of different recipes. So if you just get lucky and get a lot of like electric drops, and you get very unlucky and you don't get any fire drops, you can just get the electric version of the ability. So you have a little bit of wiggling room in there. Are you going to use gas, or how are you planning to add in the abilities for the character, like making a character component for them? So yeah, that's using the gameplay ability system. So I already have a bunch of this stuff set up. As you can see, this is for AI, never mind. I already have a bunch of abilities set up, and these are all like gameplay abilities. And let's get started with I think that Fire Dash will be the easiest to do, because it's essentially just my normal dash ability, which I have in here somewhere as well. Did I call it like Blink? No, it's just in a different folder. That makes sense. Let's go up here. Ooh, Player Dash. There we go. So we can just copy that over, spell abilities, paste that in, and like get started with Fire Dash. So gameplay ability, Fire Dash. And what this kind of just will do is do the same thing that a normal dash does, except it's not going to make the player invisible for a period of time. It's just going to keep you visible, because this already uses debug sphere. That's good to get rid of. This already uses just like moving the character. It doesn't actually teleport the character, I don't think. It spawns like a system at location, but instead it'll just spawn a system attached. Now it spawns a system at location again at the end here, but we'll get rid of this visibility stuff and this vanishing stuff. We don't need any of that anymore. I will disable input for the duration of this ability, so that you only can dash straight. Would you say gas production ready for BP only use? Nope. And I don't think it's going to be if I had to guess. Because the way, if you like hear anybody working with and on this thing from Epic, which they don't talk about a lot anymore, but they're like somewhat older stuff. They're like, a lot of this is C++ only, because the programmers set it up for designers to work with, and it's like very much based on the idea that you have like a programmer and like separate like gameplay designing people. So a bunch of that is C++ only, because they assume that it's going to be only be like used by the programmers, and it requires a little bit of setup. Some of it is kind of dumb, because things like getting the ability system component is an interface that's not blueprint exposed. Like, there's no reason for that not to be blueprint exposed. I kind of get things like setting up the attribute sets being C++ specific. It would be replicable in Blueprint if they like really put attention into that, of course. I think there's even like a marketplace, or fab as it's called now, like plugin that essentially exposes the things that they didn't expose to Blueprint, so that it is entirely Blueprint friendly. I haven't played with that because I just like do it in C++. But with that, it might be like workable with Blueprint. But I'm not entirely sure. Also, we don't do the perfect dodge for these. So let's get rid of perfect dodge, which means that we don't need to do this loop body, which means that we don't need to do this. Oh, we can skip so much stuff. This whole sphere overlap, we can skip this. I guess wait for gameplay. I don't know why it would need that, but sure. But even with a little bit of C++ work, like depending on how comfortable you are with C++, Like 90% of what you're going to be doing is going to be in Blueprint, because the ability designing itself works really well in Blueprint. And it very much like is a system that is designed to work like with blueprints and like a lot of stuff hooking into each other with like tags and that kind of stuff. But like the entire system revolves around being able to like build out this type of like semi-linear graph of this is how an ability works, right? It's just some of the things to do with like attributes, and you could still use the gameplay ability system for the gameplay abilities only, without using attributes. The only like big downside there is that you can't make use of the built-in get ability system component, but you can just make an interface yourself that essentially does the same thing, and then you can still use all of the like actual like ability building from the gameplay ability system, but you just won't be able to use their attribute system, which is not that big a deal, I guess. Means that you also probably won't be using gameplay effects. So you're only using like half the system, but the more important half, I would argue, which is segmenting your code into separate ability classes. How would you go about setting up abilities and stuff without gameplay ability? Pretty much like remaking gameplay ability from the ground up. I probably do, which means that I would have a component with like ability with an ability class that you can like assign to it, and then it instantiates it. And I actually did that exact thing for the turn-based RPG template that I made a couple of weeks ago. There's going to be a tutorial series on the channel after the current like quest tree thing wraps up, which is like 3 more videos, I believe. After that, we're going to get started on, I think it's 12 videos in total. It's about 5.5 hours long, so it's like pretty in-depth. Creating a turn-based RPG, and there what we kind of do is we take the concepts of gameplay ability system and rebuild them from scratch to suit a turn-based combat system then, obviously. But we kind of do the same thing, right? You have an ability system component, and in that you have like attributes, you have a list of classes for the abilities that that component owns. You have a function to execute owned abilities, you have a function to execute just like loose abilities. And then when you execute an ability, it instantiates an object of that ability type, and then it does like stuff. Main difference being is that my system for that obviously isn't like as well replicated for multiplayer stuff. That's where gameplay ability is really powerful as well. Is that it does a lot of multiplayer stuff for you, like network prediction and that kind of fancy mumbo jumbo. I probably wouldn't make every ability a component though, because I don't know. Dynamically attaching and detaching components, I don't think is like generally advised, as far as I understand. So the abilities themselves are either just actors that you spawn in, or they're basic objects that you construct. No, the template isn't on Fab. It will be. I mean, it's going to be for like a tutorial series, not just for like a release template. I might put it up on Fab at some point, but they will be up just as like project files on like Patreon or for YouTube members and that kind of stuff. But I might like write some documentation for a couple of the things that I've made and put them up on Fab at some point. But they're going to be more expensive on Fab than they will be on Patreon. So, like, I don't know that makes a lot of sense to do. Anyway, this is... yeah, sure. Then we disable input and we... all that stuff. Spawn system at location. No. We're going to instead spawn system attached. And the attached component will be getMesh. And this will be filled in later because I don't. Do I have like general fire? Do I have just fire? I don't think I have. Well, I have this mesh fire thing, which I think technically it probably expects a static mesh, right? Oh no, this is even worse. This is just my fire VFX, I think. Like my fireball. It'll do for now. We have this end dash stuff. I don't know when that gets called. It's been a while since I made this ability, so I need to like reacquaint myself a little bit with things going on. So we have third person character. We get the last movement input. So we want to stick the same. If that is greater than 0, we set dash direction to that. If it is less than 0, we just set it to the axis forward vector. Set the axis rotation forcefully to that, and then we apply a root motion to the actor. And then on finish, we enable input again. We delay. We end dash. We'll look into that in a moment. I don't even know what this is supposed to be. Oh, perfect dodge. Yeah, so we're not using perfect dodge anymore. So we just end the ability on end dash, which means that this might as well be just at the end of end dash, I guess. Let's keep it where it is. Don't want to mess with this too much. The reason I'm asking is I'm a Fabzal who focuses on BP templates, which is why I can't really go to C++ route with gas. Yeah, so my turn-based RPG thing is not on Fab, and it probably won't be on Fab for a while if I decide to put it on there. What I will maybe, however, do is I am currently also like remaking that thing in C++ for my own game. So like I'm remaking a bunch of stuff that I did in tutorials just in C++, like the inventory plugin. And then I have like this turn-based RPG plugin that I'm working on. I might put this version up on Fab. That's going to be a little more battle tested than the version that I made for YouTube. It's going to be C++, which might be an upside. Might be a downside to some people. I don't know. And it's going to be like maybe a little bit more thoroughly developed than the test proof of concept, honestly, that I make for YouTube. I did like spend like 30 hours developing that initial version. And I like tested it and I played around with it a little bit and that kind of stuff, but nothing is as good as just actually put it into a game and seeing what issues you run into, right? So that's what I'm doing with this one. But so yeah, if anything is going to go up on like Fab, it's going to be this version of the system probably. But yeah, here you can see that I have like this turn-based component, right? And that turn-based component has, in my case, because it's turn-based, it has a concept of starting and ending turn, but also has like this give ability and this remove ability, which takes in a turn-based ability class. And the turn-based ability is just a basic U object that has activate ability, cancel ability, and ability, and so on and so forth. And the component also somewhere in here, it has like gameplay effect and that kind of stuff. The component also has a list of like abilities that it owns and that kind of good stuff. Holy hell, I hate the fact that there's a couple of birds that just decided to come live on my roof and they're loud as hell. Like actually they are noticeable on the on the waveforms. It's kind of nice. Well, it's not nice because it's really annoying actually. Okay, so end dash, we set visibility again. We don't need to do that. So that's good. Then we appear effects, don't need to do that either. Don't need to do this. We do set the collision for our get player character capsule component. Sure. back to what it was at the beginning, I guess. So we can just kind of get rid of and dash, because this is only one more thing that we need to do. So I might as well just throw it in at the end here before and ability. Because calling a function for literally just calling one other thing is a bit bit of a like stupid thing to do, really. Bit of an idiot move. Okay, we just severely simplified the dash ability. This is the fire dash. God thank. I didn't really know which one was on there, to be honest with you. The ability cost for this one is going to be slightly more than a normal dash, obviously. So we're gonna just like stealing the cost of gameplay ability thing, and we're gonna set the cost for this one to like 30 mana or something like that. I guess the cooldown doesn't really matter. So that's the basic idea. The birds add ambience in a good way, if you ask me. I mean, that's good. Kind of feels like I'm like out in nature and I'm like super zen developing this game until I like crash the hell out on something going wrong. So yeah, we do that, but now during the dash we also do need to like have something that like damages any enemy near us. And what I'm kind of thinking is I kind of want to do the same thing that, again, we're just taking this from the Kingdom Hearts games. I think what I'm going to do is finish my sentence at some point, I swear. Yeah, okay. So after we start moving is what when we set a timer, and we're going to do this as like a tick damage kind of deal. So we set timer by event. It'll be a looping timer of like, I don't know, a quarter of a second. We can always adjust this back, right? We add in a custom event, damage, and that's just going to do a sphere overlap for actors. We're going to filter that on the enemy class. Bots. Bots indeed. We get player character. Well, I guess technically we like get avatar actor. Same thing. The radius, I don't know. 500 units might be a bit much. Let's do 250 because that would be 500 in diameter. That seems pretty decent. And then we make array object types. Actually, can we? I've always. No, we do need to make arrays. Kind of annoying that you need to do that, but I guess just pawns. And then for out actors, we just for each loop over them, and we apply damage. My custom one. Damage dealer will be this one. I guess it'll be fire damage. Piercing damage fairly low, maybe even none. I'm gonna go with none. But knockback, well, actually also should be pretty low, I think. And then base damage, because of the stick damage, don't want that to be too high. That's all gonna be based on the actual magic set at some point. But yeah, good news. The Twitch stream isn't tanking my FPS, so that's good. I'm outputting like 12,000 kilobit total to the two different platforms together. Haven't dropped a frame yet. Also, don't seem to have anybody watching on Twitch, but there's only so much I can do. Yeah, so let's see if this does anything. It should. Let's make an item for it. I guess fireball spell. Duplicate that. Fire dash. fire dash, call it fire dash. And let's see. Fire dash. Is, I mean, that does what it should do. It's, I mean, almost actually. Ideally, it would also just kind of like get stuck on enemies so that you can have like multiple ticks of damage on the same enemy. Because right now it doesn't, and that is, well, we explicitly set it to work that way, I'm pretty sure. Because yeah, we do this. So if we just get rid of that and get rid of this here, I'll get stuck on things. And then we also, when we spawn in this thing, we also want to promote that to a variable. That'll be VFX. Because at the end, we're going to need to deactivate that. And then I guess after 0.2 seconds, it'll just disappear with end ability. So we deactivate apparel. What's up? What's up back to you? What's up is a lot of fire. I guess we can just destroy this. Maybe it's best to make it auto-destroy and just make it last for a certain amount of time. Maybe that's best. I don't know. I don't really care. So let's see. Fire dash. Spawn in some enemies again. I said spawn in some enemies again. Thank you very much. It's actually a good point. I think for the fire dash, we shouldn't just dash in the direction that we're like looking. I think we should always dash in the direction of the closest enemy. I think that makes a bit more sense, because right now we could do this. Well, if I use the right key, we could do this, and that would be like really annoying, right? But if we always dash toward the closest enemy, I think that'll be better. And that should be fairly easy to accomplish, because instead of just doing like either of these, all that we do is we get the dash direction and we get rid of all this nonsense, and we get closest enemy, find look at rotation to closest enemy from third person character. And we just use that as an X vector. And then I guess we turn that back into that. The dash direction, ooh, actually no, because we don't want that. We do want this to be, what's going on, right? Let me explain. From the top down, if this is our target and this is our player, we obviously wanted to do this and also rotate to face that way. From the side view, if this is our target and this is our player, we still wanted to do this as far as dashing goes, but we don't want it to rotate in that direction, because then our character is going to be like, well, that's actually the wrong way around. Then our character is going to be rotated weirdly compared to the ground plane. I'm very bad at drawing, but you get the point. So we actually want this to... how did we set this before? We did just kind of take the... Oh, but that's because we were already using the X vector for the forward rotation. Okay. So, we make this into a rotator again. which seems like a stupid thing to do because we already had a rotator. So let's break rotator into axis. No, I think just rotator break. And then we get its current rotation, get actor rotation, and we make a rotator out of, nope. We make a rotator out of those. So the Z will be this, and then the X and the Y will be essentially always 0 anyway, but you never know. So this will now make a dash always toward the closest enemy, which is probably better. So let's try that again. Closest enemy, dash. I feel like we probably could do with making the dash a little longer, as in a bigger distance. And I also feel like it only has 1 instance of damage. So that's also not ideal, maybe. So here we go, tweaking stuff. Yeah, the duration is 0.3. So let's make that like 0.75. And then set the distance. Oh, it's just a constant force. We'll see about that. And maybe make this a little less so that we are sure to have like at least 3 damage ticks in there. Maybe we even want to make this even less. I don't know. A lot of tweaking involved in making these abilities, obviously. Okay, that was a little... but that more or less works the way that I think it should. Aside from the fact that I kind of just like went into space. Like it shouldn't do that bit. And there's already, I can see that this is going to be abusable for like platforming related reasons, but that also will cost a decent amount of MP. So like if you want to do that, like you need to be a little bit. Oh yeah, I can't do normal attacks because I fucked that animation. If you want to use this for like platforming, you can probably like get away with a couple of them, but you'll have no other MP once you get to the end of the platforming section, which if there's fights there, that's maybe just saying. Yeah, so the fact that he just kind of like takes off into the air is not great. So what I'm thinking instead is maybe what we do is we apply root motion, move to... I thought there was a move to location as well. Maybe not. So yeah, then maybe we actually just limit it to only being on the ground plane. That seems like it would be maybe fair enough. So we get like this look at rotation, and this dash direction would then be only the Z, I guess? No, everything except the Z. It would be the X and the Y and not the Z. I don't know if this is going to fix it, because it might still just be like pushing itself against that enemy and pushing itself up because of that. No, that actually fixed it, seemingly. We do this like very close by. We can still like skate past them, but that's like kind of okay. as one of these keys. I don't know what my own key mappings are, man. So that seems pretty decent, especially if you like get caught in between a couple of these. I need to fix their death animations. Something is going like horribly wrong with them, as you can clearly see. I think the issue is that they are still taking damage after they've died, which like repeats a death animation before they actually get destroyed. That's, I think, specifically that enemy that has that issue, maybe? Let's actually take a look at that, because getting distracted is what I do best. Let's try to kill these guys with the same ability. I kind of like this fire dash, not gonna lie. Feels really good. Even without the effect in place yet. It actually feels kind of good to like do things with tick damage. So I probably should like think about more of that stuff. Everything we're going to do after this in this stream is not going to have this same type of like tick damage. Yeah, so that one didn't have this issue at all. So it's something specifically with like this guy's death animation. I don't know what it is. But I think for now the thing is good. We'll make like visual effects for it at some point, but I don't think that I want to really be doing that right now, because I've been working on animation a lot today. I don't want to do other stuff that I get infuriated by. I want to do fun stuff. So for now, let's move this to finished. Finished just means that it exists. It doesn't mean that it's actually finished. For the record, almost none of this is actually finished. I think the nice next follow-up would be the ice shards, because again, that's relatively easy to accomplish, I would say. We're gonna take the normal ice shots, which is in this folder somewhere, maybe? It should be. Gameplay, babe. Oh, it's piercing shot. So what this is going to do is once it hits something, it's going to splinter off into other projectiles. The thing is, those projectiles need to not be hitting the thing that the original one hit. But we'll look into that. So let's call this ice splinters or something like that. At some point, I'm going to need to sit down, give these actual like in-game names and like write descriptions for them, and it's going to also kind of suck. But hey, maybe ChatGPT can help with that. Anyway, we do all this, and then we pretty much... Well, instead of adding the ability after this, what we'll do is I'll get rid of this tag, because the ability itself is probably going to manage spawning in the like offshoots and everything. So what I'm thinking is after we spawn in the first one, we'll just wait, and we'll make it wait for like 20 seconds in total. And that will just then forcefully end the ability, just in case any of the other ones like keep flying off. Now, I'm gonna make a copy of this thing, because I don't know if using the same... Probably use the same class for this, to be honest. But no, because this one needs to pierce things, and this one... Isn't that a little weird, though? I guess not. Having one that pierces things and one that, like, breaks apart, but I guess that can be fine. So that will be ice splinter, especially once they have number one, not very bad geometry, and number two, like different models to begin with. So when this thing overlaps, what it'll do is it will call out on hit enemy. Technically, should just call it hit enemy. And then, well, that actually also destroys the actor. What? It's not supposed to. Oh, allow destroy. Oh. Yeah, so we don't need that anymore in there. We just need to check whether or not we're overlapping with... I guess we just need to... no, we need to just... That's fine. I was going to say we need to check whether or not we are overlapping with just an enemy, right? But it also needs to like explode upon contact with like walls and that kind of stuff. So yeah, we do that, and then we I guess either way we don't, well actually we don't need to sphere overlap actors for this one, because we can just apply damage to whatever it hit. So we can get rid of this. Simplifies a lot of this code immediately. And then instead of spawning a new system at location and destroy actor, we call out hit enemy, because the ability itself will be responsible for spawning in the secondary ones. Because the secondary ones are also going to be smaller and that kind of stuff, I think. So yeah, that's pretty much the idea. It's also going to be responsible for killing off anything, so don't necessarily need to give it a target actor. Yeah, I don't think we need to do any of this actually. We can just yeah, just gotta make it do that. Seems pretty good. So in ice splinters, we spawn on one of those, and then we assign on enemy hits. At least we do so. Oh, assign hit enemy. So we assign hit enemy, and whenever this thing hits an enemy, we run this event, and this event will just spawn in a for loop, not a for each loop, just a normal for loop. Between like one, well, let's actually, yeah, between 1 and 4 more. So let's do 1 and 5 more actually. So between random integer? No, not just a random integer. That would be bad. Random integer in range, please. So let's say that it could be like 3 to 5. So that would be a total of 4 to 6. So let's make it 2 to 4 instead. That it can spawn in again. And those should spawn in smaller than the last one. That's actually kind of annoying. Because the way I was thinking to do this... Well, no, actually, we do need to like tier this. Because the way I was initially thinking to do it is we could bind hit enemy again. And just bind it to this same event. But that would potentially create a situation where you infinitely keep spawning in more. So what we actually need to do is we need to just like copy this setup over into a new event, which also lets us easily set up the scale for them. So that's actually pretty decent. We do need to have a spawn location though. So how about we set our ice splinter thing to send through its location. So whenever we call that out, we get actor. That's no. Get actor location. This one. Wait, what is that other function actually? Get actor location. Get actor array average location. That. Huh. I didn't know that existed. That seems like it could be useful. Let's remember that. So yeah, we give through the location. We effectively just give it a random rotation. Like, can we just make a like random rotator? Give it a random roll as well. I don't care. Which also can make it go like down, which is maybe not great. Yeah, let's actually not do that. Never mind. I changed my mind. Random rotator like in range maybe. Can we do that? No, we just need to set this up to I guess this can be a random random float in range between 0 and 360, and then these need to be I guess roll can also be 360. I think it's pitch that needs to be in a range of 0 to 180. Probably good to like collapse this to another function, right? Yeah, let's collapse that to a function. Just call that spawn more. It's fine. And spawn more is also going to need to have a scale. So let's make a parameter for that scale, and we can actually just make that a float. That's going to be real fun because we can just hook that up to there, and then we have that. So yeah. So for this one, we'll set the scale to like 0.6. For these ones, we'll set the scale to like 0.3. And we'll also need to keep track of an array where all of them are kept track of. Because of course, after the ability ends, we need to get rid of any like bullets that are still hanging around. So let's make a like bullets array. It can just be actors. Actor singular, sure. Add. I guess technically we should also add this first one to it. Because it could be the case that it doesn't get disappeared within that 20-second window. It should. By all accounts, it should have hit something by that point, but you never know. So yeah, after that 20-second window, we go back to this wait delay. We end ability, so on and ability. We re-enable inputs, and we for each loop, and we just kind of like destroy those actors that are left over. Okay, that should be the like ice splintering ability, more or less. It just needs to be given an initial speed of like, let's give that an initial speed of 400. Maybe a little slow. It's probably actually very slow when I think about it. Yeah, probably gonna need that to be bigger. Ice splinters. Ice splinters. Ice splinters. I've said ice splinters like 5 times in a row there without saying anything else. Now, let's see how I fucked that up. because there's got to be something that I messed up there. Because that went a little too easily. Yep. Yeah. What? I guess, oh, what it's doing. Yeah, so what it is doing is, that is annoying. It's spawning right inside of the ground and immediately dying. There's also the issue where I don't have the ability to walk anymore. And that is because I just need to move this enable inputs to happen on complete, or like on blend out, or uninterrupted, or cancelled, like anything really. Because otherwise, yeah, I'm going to be stuck. So, yeah, we don't really have a way of dealing with that. Like, there's no way to make it specifically, unless I'm going to tag every single floor in the game as being a floor, but I don't feel doing that. So there's no real good way of attacking this thing to be like sensitive to walls, but not to floors, aside from just updating its collider. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go into its collider, which is fucking somewhere. It's not in this blueprint. That's where it is. There we go. And we can just kind of... Oh, no, we cannot squish it down. Well, I guess we can just make this a capsule then. Joke's on you. Bye. Let's actually snap that. And that'll be our collider. Does it have overlap events? Yes, it does. So that might fix it. It's a better shape for that collider anyway. I don't know why it was a sphere. Okay. That's still... oh, there went one. I guess... if it hits a wall... Holy shit! Okay, I guess if it hits a wall, it also would like need to send spikes or splinters in like different directions. So maybe what we need to do is we need to like also send through like some type of normal direction. Like what direction this needs to spawn in, and then we need to like rotate around a rotator based on that, but that seems like it would be a lot of work. So I don't want to do that. Anyway, infinite loop detected. Yeah, there's no shit. Why? Oh, did I? No, that shouldn't create an infinite loop. You spawn one of these things that binds these. Yeah, there's no reason for that to be an infinite loop, man. I mean, it did try to spawn in like probably like 30 at the same time, which maybe not exactly what we want. Though I suppose we need to make sure that it doesn't spawn them all and then instantly kill whatever we try to attack anyway, right? So hit enemy should also send through the like next enemy to ignore, which is going to be a Axel. And then we also want to make sure that this thing has a enemy to ignore. Again, it's going to be an Axel. I'm actually going to open a window here because my PC is like blowing hot air right up my ass. And it's kind of humid today. And since you guys seem to like the birds, now the birds are going to be louder. It's going to annoy me, by the way. So hopefully I'm the only one that's actually getting annoyed by it. Ice splinters, yeah. So we check, I guess, if enemy to ignore also does not equal other actor. We end bully in that, to be sure. If this is not valid, I guess if it's not valid, and this is a valid thing, this will always, yeah. So that should be fine. And then the enemy to ignore for the next one will be the actor that we just hit. And then in Ice Splinters, we just need to... Oh no. In this, we need to set this to instance editable and expose it on spawn. Then we can go back into gameplay ability for Ice Splinters, where we can go into the spawn more and set the target actor. No. Did I call it target actor? I don't think I did. Did I? No, I definitely called it enemy to ignore. That said, we don't need target actor anymore at all. So I just need to right click and refresh. Hold on. Refresh. Enemy to ignore will be something that we give in. And that's gonna cause issues because sure. The first one doesn't need to ignore anything, but the other ones need to ignore the thing that like causes their spawn to begin with. All right, let's try that again. See if it still bitches about it being an infinite loop. Because in theory, it shouldn't be an infinite loop. Oh, there we go. Okay. At least it had collision with the wall a moment ago, right? Because that caused me to crash. It still causes me to crash. Why? Bind to hit enemy. It's the second one. So if we just kind of disconnect that for now, just to see if the... Yeah. Just to see if the first iteration of it works. I wish you could sometimes just tell Unreal, like, hey, I know that you're looking out for me. I know that you're just trying to prevent me from doing infinite loops, but this is not an infinite loop. I know what the fuck I'm doing. Also, hello, can I actually like, use the ability? Did I not equip the ability? I'm sure that I did. This screen doesn't have that information. Okay, maybe not ideal. Yeah, no, I did. So, the fuck is wrong with you? Why? 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 Oh, because closest enemy stuff, probably, right? Yeah, we don't need to have that in there anyway. So we don't need that. And that means we don't like need this either. It's not even running disable input though. So it's just not getting to... Oh, closest enemy is not valid. There we go. That's the issue. Let's try again. Making good progress though. We have almost 2 abilities and we're only an hour in. It's good enough. Let's see what the penis rocket does this time. It still does an infinite loop. Look, does this look infinite to you, you idiot? You know, there's one way to easily break up infinite loops actually in Unreal. And that is adding in a delay. but this is... We're not even binding... What the fuck? Spawning in 4 things within 1 tick is not an infinite loop. What the hell are you talking about, Unreal? Oh, there's also a chicken. There's also a rooster here, by the way. If you didn't like hate the normal birds enough, there's also a like famously annoying bird. That one I have kind of like trained myself to tune out though. So it's just that the fucking chirping, man, drives me insane early in the morning. I don't understand what's going wrong. Because we're not like doing this in like 2 layers anymore, which means that this is just trying to spawn in like 4, like between like 3 and 7, I said, or 6, 5, something along those lines, I suppose. But like binding to like nothing. This triggering an infinite loop detection is fucking insane, just because it's the same class. But I'm not like binding automatically to everything. Like I specifically set this up to prevent infinite loops, and still it bitches about infinite loops to me. So I don't understand the problem. Within a for loop, so it's not easy to just throw in. Did I just add in a for loop with delay? Did I? For loop. Reverse for each loop? That's also kind of nice to have. Wait, just as a question, do you have like a for each loop with index offset as is? No, because I did make one of those. For each k means cluster, what the fuck? Definitely not relevant right now. So just hooking up this makes it go insane. Wait, no, hold on. Because this was hooked up, right? So it should have spawned in these. And it didn't. So that means that the enemy to ignore bit is not working, which means that it is indeed spawning in like 30 in a single frame, which, I don't know, man, that still doesn't feel like it should necessarily trigger. Like, that should seem possible. What the fuck, dude? What do you mean infinite loop? There's 4 fucking functions that are being called. What the hell is your issue? I had a for loop with delay in another thing. I need to make that a generalized macro. Where did I put that again? I remember where I put it. I am a genius. I put it in the like spam attack thing. Projectile, spawn projectiles, is that it? No. One of these. But I think I just named the wrong one something else. Because this is supposed to... Did it not save? Because this is a different thing. Oh no, this is the thing. Okay, so actually, yeah, I don't think I did do that after all. Hold on, because this has like an attack and a wait cycle. Okay. I'm just going to try putting in a delay until next tick in here. That's probably going to just make it only spawn in one. If I'm super lucky, that will stall the for each loop, but I don't think that's how that works. I'm pretty sure that's not how that works at all. So we're probably just going to have to deal with the fact that I have to do a little bit more work. What the... I guess it spawned in one. So that worked. Okay, let's... I guess... copy over this entire deal. And then in that ability, we'll make a... Nope. We'll make a macro for loop over frames. And I will put this standard macro on the other monitor real quick as a reference to see how everything is hooked up. We have obviously the inputs. Then we have the first index. Then we have the last index. Last index and first index only have one connection each, so that's good. And then the output has the loop body. Loop body works for me. The index. And then it also has a completed pin, which is hooked up from here. Completed. Now, during the actual loop here, we'll just, after this, delay until next tick. There we go. Now, with that, which again, we probably actually can't make this a general macro. We could make it just an actor macro, but then we would be able to use it on like gameplay abilities and stuff because of this. Because that's a latent node, and that needs world context. Anyway. You say infinite loop, I say shut your mouth. There we go. That should do it. I think. I'm not confident enough to hook that up to the next delegate right away. As a matter of fact, actually, I want to just like save all. Just to be sure. Should work though. But it should have worked to begin with. So who the fuck knows? Let's see, let's see, let's see, let's see. The fuck do you mean infinite loop detected? What the actual fuck is your problem, dude? Okay, we'll just delay for 1/10 of a second. If there's literally like half a second for them to be spread out over and it still says infinite loop detected, I'm gonna actually like lose it. I'm gonna like do stuff that I shouldn't. What the fuck do you mean? Okay. Okay. For some reason, the ability managing all this is maybe not going to work. But that doesn't make any sense, because it's not even like the things that I'm spawning in here are then binding to something else, right? So how could that ever, like, even... How could that ever? I think Unreal is just messing with me. Right now, it's just overprotective. It's being a bitch. I spawn in one of these. I bind it to whenever it hits an enemy. I guess it might be trying to do this a bunch of... No, because it's telling me infinite loop and then giving me this fucking call stack that's 4 spawns long, which, no, that's not an infinite loop, you fucking idiot. What if we, just as an idea, this is really dumb, what if we just do that? What if we just do that like 4 times? Because if this is the way that I have to do it, I'm going to be upset. Unreal. I'm going to be super upset about this. Because this would be dumb if I had to do it this way. But everything seems to indicate that this might actually solve it. So let's... Just going to do 4. Going to make it less variable. It's going to make it more tedious to hook everything up. But God fucking forbid you do this in a loop, because that's scary. It might be an infinite loop, even though it's not. Again, I fucking wish you could just tell it to shut up about infinite loops when you know that it's not an infinite loop. Can you, actually? I haven't looked that up. Maybe you can. Unreal make ignore infinite loop. The answer is probably going to be you can't. First, you should never loop a function on an output of a pure function. I don't care. Delays don't work on loops. Yeah, that's why I made a custom thing. Get rid of the infinite loop when it's not an infinite loop. Nobody on Reddit is like helpful at all, which it's not a surprise at all. People are saying delay. I'm using delay. Delay until next tick. I don't think there's just anything that I can say, hey, ignore infinite loops. I guess I could put it on a timer and then just like count up to make a... I guess that is a thing that I could do. Just like make an integer that counts up and have a timer that just loops every frame. That probably would be still better than what we're doing right now. But okay, I want everybody to be 1000% clear about this. What I set up here is exactly the same as doing it in a loop. I just like now wrote it out manually. Well, like dragged it out manually. So if this works, I'm going to go to Epic headquarters and I'm going to ask to speak to the manager. So that worked, but it also didn't. The fuck? So it might just be something to do with this after all. So if it's not player character and not the enemy to ignore, then we move on. So let's see, because it feels like it is just like triggering itself to delete immediately. Which what the hell? Why? Why would it do that? Why would you do such a thing, man? Yeah, it printed out cube grid tool like 4 times there. So why? Because we are... This might just be an issue with my logic then. Still, the infinite loop thing is annoying. Gonna get rid of this one because we're not working with that. So yeah, we send through the enemy to ignore as the other actor that we hit. Let's just on begin play print out enemy to ignore. Is that getting set properly? And then we'll bypass that print string for a moment. Because I feel like that might just not be getting set properly somehow, for some reason. Should be kind of weird. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. That was a different name, wasn't it? That was a different name. What I'm thinking is it's still hitting the floor somehow. It's not what I meant to do, but sure. So let's just like jump up and do it. Well, at least it's consistent about calling it an infinite fucking loop. That's the wrong ability. So if we figure this out, we can go back to the for loop. That's good news. I also... This is why I don't like doing Twitch stuff. Because when I do Twitch stuff... my chat's just full with like bots anyway. So why would I even bother? I guess because they're being given, like, let's just give them a 0 rotation for now. Because they might be getting rotated into the floor. Which immediately, like, annihilates them. Okay, hold on. That was interesting. Because it's now printing out both the name of its enemy to ignore and then the enemy or the actor that it gets killed by. So let's go into the output log for that. The other ice splinters. That makes sense. Yeah, they all spawn in the same fucking location, don't they? That is... Yeah, that is a fantastic point. It's a soft ice splinter. So whenever you're colliding with something that is not of your own class, pretty please, do this stuff. That is a fantastic point. Really should have thought about that. Did I hook this up the wrong way around? No, I didn't. If the other actor is BP Splinter, which is this thing, if it's not, move on. So the fuck? I guess we can just cast to Splinter instead, because that node is doing something it shouldn't be doing. Or maybe, again, I'm making a logic issue out of this somewhere, somehow. Yeah, for some reason this is now acting like even weirder. Oh no, that makes sense. No, I'm just being an idiot. That makes total sense. Because they're all being spawned in with the same like exact rotation now, because I got rid of all that rotational stuff. Okay, let's put back in our for loop, which I guess we can just do as a normal for loop again, now that we have solved all that other weird ass stuff. And we can spawn more. Random int in range. What did we have, like 2 to 4, I believe, right? And there we spawn them in at the next location with the next enemy to ignore at a scale of 0.6. And this already has the randomness built in. Yes, okay. So, let's see. One step at a time. I'm gonna get there. As the birds get louder. Let's see. Fantastic. And after the 20 seconds are up, the ones that are just flying off into nowhere should also disappear. In the actual game, will be indoors at all times. So if they like hit a wall or a ceiling, they will just like splinter again and come back down. Ideally, again, I probably just need to either spawn in more of them, or I need to spawn them in with like the normal of how they hit something. Hey, 20 seconds seems like a long time, but this... Oh, yeah, no, actually, that makes sense because I'm not adding them to the array. So, yeah, I probably need to do a little bit of extra work with that rotation, to be honest with you. But let's add them to the array. So, bullets, add unique... and how can we easily send through the direction of where they got hit? Because I can't just send through the direction between actor locations, because the pivot point of the actor that you hit could be anywhere. So you would need a hit... You would need a hit event instead of a overlap event, is what you would need. Which actually is okay, that's entirely fine. Like, it means that we can just get rid of this. And then use let's just use this. Simulate generates hit events, and then instead of on overlap we can do we have things for that on component hits. I don't think we have an actor hit, right? We only have on component hit. So for the cone, we check for the other actor whether or not it's a splinter or not. And we just kind of move all this other actor stuff into there. And that should, by all accounts, now also send through the hit, normal impulse. I don't know what the normal impulse would be, but let's like break open this hit, because that hit should also then have the normal. So let's just say that the enemy hit takes in one more parameter, and that will be the hit normal. Should be a vector. Send through that normal. And for now, what we'll do is we'll recombine this. Take in that hit normal. Give that a proper name. Hit normal. And then just send that through as well. So that should now send them all in the same direction, which is the opposite direction of the thing that they hit, in theory. Or they can just do nothing. Which I think, oh, no, they aren't doing nothing. They are... No, they are doing nothing. These things aren't generating hit events, right? That's the issue. Oh, they don't have... Oh, that's annoying. Let's just put in a normal fucking cube to test with instead. Yeah, so this thing needs to also simulate hit events. Crying kids outside because there's no fucking noise going on yet. Okay. Nope. Just nope. That don't do it either. Why? Why? I suppose that might be due to the fact that potentially this thing has no collision. So let's just say block all. And try again. At which point it might actually work on things that don't have hit things and stuff. Crying little annoying bitches. Are kind of distracting. Why doesn't it do the thing and the thing and the thing and the thing? Does hit events... They don't need physics, do they? Oh, they might. That would not be great. Event call when a component hits or is hit by something solid. This could happen due to things like character movement, set location with sweep enabled, or physics simulation. For events where objects overlap, walking into a trigger, see overlap instead. Yeah, okay, but I need the like hit normal is the thing. Is it even like doing anything at all? Like is the issue one of this, or is the issue that's just not triggering the hit to begin with? Also, which cone did we just add in a hit for? That's also... Yeah, no, we did add it for the main one, not like the effect one. Remember when I said that was going well? Yeah, it's not anymore. Yeah, so it's just not triggering the hit at all. Why the fuck not, man? Because this thing surely has its collision set up to... I mean, default. Sure, but I guess we can... It's not going to make a difference, I know. But I just want to make sure. Maybe projectile movements don't generate like hit events, but that would be fucking insane, wouldn't it? Yeah, no, that doesn't make any sense. On actor hit. Oh, actor hit is actually a thing we can do. So maybe we just use that instead. Maybe that's worth just doing that. Yeah, let's try that. So other actor, because we don't care about the components. We only care about like the hit location. And maybe this changes things. I doubt it, to be honest with you, but yeah, I didn't think it would. Let's see. Unreal hit event not firing. Why could that possibly be? Did you try to add a sphere in the components here in the blueprint? Yeah, so that's like there. Make sure your static mesh have a collision. Ooh, that might be it. The static mesh might just not have a collision. See, that is good advice. I can't select anything, but that is good advice. Because I don't think that this thing has collision. Projectiles do hit generate hit collisions? Yeah, I would imagine so, right? Yeah. Oh, they need to be the root of the actor. That is... Yeah, but no. For actor hit, probably, yeah, that's a good point. But we did just use, like, component hit. Right? We have this on component hit. I cannot imagine that this only works on the root. So I'm going to try to look at the collision for the mesh first, because I feel like that makes more sense. But with that in mind, I am going to switch back to component hit, just to be sure. But yeah, for the actor hit, that probably makes sense. But I'm thinking that if I just look at the show collision, it does have collision. No, okay, it does have collision, so it might be what you're saying. It might be the thing you're saying. So yeah, that would be dumb if that's the case. Because then why do we have separate like collider versions of this? Good thing is that I don't know why this sphere even exists. Good thing that we can just make this the root without too much trouble. Can we? I mean, we can. Yeah, we can. Let's see if that changes it. I mean, that did seem to change it, to be fair. I don't know why it has such a weird rotation when we initially spawn it in. Now that we change that, that also doesn't really make sense. Like, why is that a thing suddenly? But yeah, that did seem to fix it, so thanks for that. I just don't know why it's suddenly at like a weird rotational angle. And also why it doesn't... why it doesn't move the other ones that it spawns in. Why does this one not, like, move? And again, why is this one... Yeah, I don't think the hit... I don't think using hit for this actually is working out fairly well. The rotation it is probably from some deflection after the collision. Yeah, but if it it could be colliding with the player. But if it isn't simulating physics, it shouldn't do that. That should only happen with physics objects. And it's not simulating physics, at least I don't think it is. Oh, that would be in there. Right, we don't have any physics enabled on this thing. Yeah, so we don't simulate physics, so that shouldn't do that. Okay, let's reconsider the overlap method. Yeah, see, this is also now just weirdly rotated. There's something weird about the rotation of this whole deal. Oh, that's... yeah. Okay, so I remember why this thing wasn't the root of the scene. Hold on. Because I, for some reason, decided to model this thing diagonally. Because the reference that I used for it, which is very bad, was diagonal in the image that I got for it. So this thing, like locally, has some rotation. Right here, has some rotation. When it's the root of the scene, it won't have this rotation, but because it was already this way in the viewport, it still shows as that way in the viewport. But yeah, so that's the reason that yeah, okay. Other ID, capsule components, again. We're going to go back to the overlap method. So we do overlap on actor begin overlap. We change other actor to other actor again. Then we just need to figure out a different way of figuring out the... I guess we can just do... Okay, I have an idea. What we can do is, like, get rid of these unnecessary print strings at this point, is when we hit something, we do a sphere trace, because a sphere trace will give us a hit location. And I think also a hit normal, because it just gives us a hit result, right? So if we do a sphere trace, we could do a line trace actually. Let's do a line trace. By channel. We just start that at the given actor location, and we then, because we always know more or less, well, we don't know for sure, but we can be reasonably certain that most of the time the thing that we hit is in the forward direction for this actor, right? Not always. I could make the capsule the root. That's a good point. And just use the hit events from... That's actually a fantastic point. Yeah, I could do that. I think I will. It's a much better idea. Yeah, that's a much better way of doing it. I'm gonna fucking lose my mind at these screaming children, man. So that'll be... Yeah, so we don't need to do the line trace thing. It would have worked, but this is easier. So yeah, thanks for that. Just get the forward vector of the vector of the actor that you hit, No, because for the wall that works, for an enemy that doesn't. If I have an enemy and I hit it, its forward vector might be like facing this way, because it could be facing any like random direction, right? So that wouldn't actually give me the like impact point. What I need is the impact point to like spawn the new icicles from, or what direction they should be spawning in. So I can't just use the forward, because this is mainly hopefully going to be hitting like moving, rotating actors. So that doesn't work. No, I'm just testing it on walls. It also should work on walls, but it mainly is going to need to work on like actual like characters. So yeah, go away. What I did for my projectile, blocking collision only with the environment and overlapping with entities, seems to give the best results. Yeah, so I do specifically like need this normal. That's the whole reason that we're using hits to begin with instead of overlap. Which, now that I talk about it, that does mean that this capsule... Hold on, we need to change a couple of things around, because that does mean that we're going to set this thing back to having no collision, and then the capsule is going to just like block everything, right? More or less. Try number 567. Well, let's see how it do. It don't do at all. It's also in the wrong direction. How? Why? Why? I'm gonna go with my overcomplicated way, because I think that that's going to work sooner. Technically, this should work as well, obviously, but I can't be fucking asked to deal with it. We can still keep the capsule as the... yeah, as the root, that's no problem. We just need to... Oh, we weren't simulating hits on that. Well, now we're simulating overlaps, and everything else in the game works on overlaps effectively as it is, so... it's probably fine. So we're going to go back here. we'll get there at some point. Line trace by channel. We'll get the actor's location, and then we can also just get actor forward vector. This is a little bit less foolproof, obviously, because if we're hitting something not directly on, it's going to be a little bit weird, but... well, no, actually, not necessarily. Well, yeah, kind of. Well, I don't care. That's not going to happen that much, hopefully. What were we doing? Float, yes. And then let's say that we do this like 500 units in front. It's the end. And then this will be the hit result that we take in. Then I guess we actually, for the hit normal, we select a vector. And I guess if we don't hit anything from that, if we do hit something rather, we give back this, and otherwise we just take our normal vector and like flip it. So it just shoots the other like new shards out backward. What do you plan to make? So what I'm trying to make is a projectile that when it hits the enemy, right? So we have... there's a way to make this thing different. Oh, what the fuck? A different color. I just don't... there we go. So when we hit the enemy, what it should do is it should like spawn a handful of like new, smaller versions of itself. And ideally, it should then spawn those like in the opposite normal of how it was hit, with some amount of like randomization to left, right, and up and down. Because what I was doing a moment ago, and that seemed to work so far, is just like sending them out in effectively like 360 degrees of freedom any direction. But that ends up with them just going like kind of randomly weird everywhere. I kind of want them to feel a little bit more responsive in the way that they like splinter away. But that should be the case now, in theory. Well, right now they will only be ambulances. Why not? We don't have enough noise pollution yet. Right now they should be... What? Where is it? It's nowhere. Why is it nowhere? What the fuck? Yeah, I'm starting to think that doing this, depending on a normal hit, is more trouble than it's worth, to be honest. We did set this to generate overlap events, right? And we set it to overlap, like, all dynamic, generate overlap events, yeah. What the fuck is it overlapping with, then? Because it is instantly destroying itself, I think. Or just not spawning? But that seems unlikely. That seems highly unlikely. Cube grid tool output. I think that's the floor, man. Yeah, that's the floor. So that must mean that it's spawning in with a weird rotation again, because that's just my fucking luck. Hold on. We can pretty easily test that much, because we can just... Dude! What? How? And again, how? Well, no, actually, that kind of makes sense, because this... that is on me. This should ignore self. No, it does. Then how does that make sense? Because it hits the normal and then it goes up. Why is this thing rotated weird? Oh, it's because the capsule component. It's because of the capsule component. Okay. Different ID. We're going to do this with a box component. Eventually we'll get there. I swear. Capsule component can go. The box component, we can just set to whatever dimensions we need it to be. Right. Box extent. There we go. Without needing to rotate it weirdly and doing any of that stupid stuff. That still doesn't solve the fact that our normal stuff seems still quite broke. I'm gonna fucking lose it, man. Along the forward direction of the projectile. Yeah, so I'm just trying to kind of like do the opposite, I guess. So that will be the fallback if we can't get this to work, which, I mean, everything that we are going through right now seems to indicate that it's not going to work. But the reason that it needs to be the like impact normal, which now that I think about it is most likely just going to be the opposite of its forward direction. But the reason that it needs to be the impact normal and not just the forward direction in this case is because if it hits a wall, if I spawn them in the forward direction, it's just going to like spawn them through the wall. And they should be spawned back into the room when they hit a wall. But for that, we could just use the inverted normal, which is what I do here, in theory, when I don't get a hit results. But I suppose we do want to make sure that we are like, do we get a hit result or not? Yeah, and there's still something fucked about this thing's like root rotation or whatever. Can we look? Because at some point we rotated something in the root, and now the root is just kind of messed up. Which I'm not a huge fan of. Because Unreal, while trying to protect you from yourself, also makes you not able to fix things that you messed up. Why can I not find this class now suddenly? My guy. My dude. I cannot click. Can't click on anything. You know what we're going to do? Close this. Wait a moment until all the logging stuff is done. And fucking just rebuild. Maybe that'll fix our root rotation weirdness as well. That would be ideal. Do you have the rotation to moving direction sets? I think so, but it's not going to update its movement direction anyway. Like the moment it gets spawned in, all it does is it goes in a straight line. The issue is like with the rotation is just to do with the fact that I messed around with a component that then became the root with like that component's rotation, and that seems to be fucking with it. But now, like, if it just needs to reconstruct the class as a whole, we will see that in the preview. I could already see. I don't think that wasn't screened out. In gameplay ability, ice splinters. I was just on the other screen. That's why I couldn't see it a moment ago. That makes sense. It's now like this. So we very simply, now that that's fixed itself by just like rebuilding real quick, can rotate this back, and we can now set this to work more properly. Something like that. Which gets us one step closer to... That's the wrong ability. Where's my ice ability? Ice Splinter. There we go. Which gets us one step closer to this thing working. Eventually. What? Okay, so it just sends it upward, which means that it gets sent through a normal of 001, which is weird. Because why would it be getting sent through a normal of 001? That makes no sense, unless something is going wrong here with hit normal. Oh, it's this X vector, yeah, that's the issue. There should be rotation from Z or from Y. So yeah, the hit normal was correct, it's just I'm using the wrong function, I think, to convert it. And then at some point we actually need to spawn in like this first one in the player rotation instead of just 0, 0. Okay. It was the Y. The amount of times that I just kind of guess which one I need to use because it's not super intuitive which one like applies to what situation always. You'd think that at this point I would have a bit more intuition for that. Yeah, no, that makes sense. No, it doesn't. Does it? I don't know if it does. All I know at this point is it was super close, because if I just turn this vector around as well, I think, well, not that vector, just this vector around as well, I think we are in business. And then we need to add a random spread from that point. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have no idea how the fuck we're going to do that. That was the wrong button, if you couldn't tell. And then it also needs to work on enemies. But not the main concern right this moment. Nope. Let's actually pay attention to the print strings. Does it even like... Yes, it must. Question is, does it even like hit the thing with a line tracer? But true, yes, it does. It just doesn't. That's weird. I guess we need to make a rotator from... Okay. So if we go back into here, no. Here. No. This one. Instead of making a rotator from 1, we make rotator from Y and Z. So its Y would be this. And then its Z would just be get up vector. Just vector up. Because I think what it might be doing is it might be flipping around itself. Yeah, there's definitely more trouble than it's worth at this point. But we're also like very sunk cost fallacy on this. Okay, not quite. So it needs to be X and Z. Right? From X and Z. I hate vector math stuff so much. Are we gonna do it? No, we didn't do it. Just do this. Its up should always be world up, right? its forward should be what we just got here, and then we only need to figure out what its right vector should be, and its right vector should always be... What should its right vector be? That's a good question. Like the cross product between these two, right? ChatGPT. I need to provide in a forward vector, right vector, and up vector in Unreal to make a rotator. I have the forward and up vectors, but I'm not sure what the best way would be to get the right vector now. Yeah, the right vector is just cross product between up and forward. So that's up. Well, no, wrong way around. So that would be up, forward. And that would be the right vector, ideally. So that is what, under the hood, making it from like XY or XZ or whatever the fuck does. But just calling them like forward and up and right vector makes a bit more sense for like human beings. So this should... Fuck! Okay. So it's going up. Can also do find look at rotation of the spawn location and the normal vector. Yeah, but I need to then rotate it around still. Because again, if you do that, like if we spawn here and we impact it here, the look at rotation to that is there, and I needed to start moving that way. And in order to rotate that around, I still like need to rotate that in 3 axes, potentially. Well, mostly in the Z, to be fair. But if it like hits the ceiling somehow, right? If this is like a room and it hits the ceiling, it also does need to like start moving down again. So it does need to like always move opposite of that. Anyway, so it's moving up now. So I guess that means that it sees up as forward and forward as up. So let's just swap them around. Look, there's only 3 inputs in this node, which means that there's only a total of like 9 versions of of this that could potentially be. It's still going up. Why is it still going up? That makes no sense. That really doesn't make any sense. But I guess we have the hit normal, right? So you're correct about that. So we could just like invert that hit normal. Oh, the hit normal is... yeah, no, you're entirely correct. I'm sorry. Yeah, no. I was just in my head about like forward directions. But the hit normal is pointing out back into the room. So, yeah, no, that 1000% makes sense. So if we just do this and we set like hit normal like times 100. Add that to the transform spawn location. And then we can do find look at rotation. So find look at rotation. Do that. So you're right. I think that does it. And if not, at least this time it won't be my fault. Well, it still mostly will be. How? How? That makes no sense. Print the hit location. I want to know what the fuck it thinks the hit location is, because I feel like that's going like majorly wrong. I think there's something that's going wrong with the hit location, and all my other code was just sound. Yeah, hit location is 001. So that makes sense. It's going into 0. That works perfectly. This works perfectly as it. Why does it think it's 001? Well, that's not the hit location, that's the hit normal. Fair enough. But that must mean that it's hitting... You can save the adding of the original location to the normal if you just test against 000. No... I guess? I guess so. Oh no, definitely don't do that. Because yeah, if we're adding it to both ends, we can just subtract it from both anyway. Yeah, that makes sense. And then we don't need to multiply it by 100 either, right? We can just do that. Cool. Okay, so we'll get back to that in a moment. Why is it getting 001 from this? I want to know what the other actor is that we're hitting, because I feel like something's going wrong there. And I really should start sporting myself in with this ability already like pre-equipped, because this is getting really tedious. So, who are we hitting? Cube grid out. We're hitting the ground. You know, I just remembered. We can do that. That is a thing that we can do. Don't laugh too much at me. Okay. So it's tracing back to 000. Why is it tracing back to 000? Did I just forget to hook something up? Oh. Yeah, so here we do need to get actor location. So yeah, the last like half an hour of me losing my mind. Mostly because of that. Mostly because of that. Not saying that it will instantly work now, but it's going to, probably, maybe, hopefully. There we go. It spawns it in the opposite direction. So now I just need to figure out how to do the math to make that like scatter into about 180 degree like cone. Because I don't even know where to start with that. I'm going to be real. So let's think. Eye splinters, we do all this. We get this rotation. I guess with this rotation, we can just, I mean, we can just combine rotators. And then... maybe not even combine rotators. Maybe we do that with the... maybe we do something with the normal, right? I just randomized it. Yeah, so if we just randomized it, everything we just did would have been unnecessary anyway. But we have this hit normal, so we can pretty much... like, ChatGPT. Okay, I now have the correct normals. I want to take a impact normal and randomize it in a 180 degree cone. or half sphere in the direction of given normal. Oh, that makes it. The math actually isn't that bad. That makes sense. So what you do is you just get a random, specifically if you're just doing it at 180 degrees, this works. If you want it to be more fine-tuned, this will become a bit of a bitch. But since I want to do like impact normal and then like anything within, imagine that this is properly around 180 degrees, all I need to do is generate a random vector, check the dot product, and if the dot product is under 0, just invert it. That's it. That's what I meant, randomize the normal. Yeah, but it still needs to have like that check, right? So I guess we can just random... Can we just make like a random vector? Random unit vector. Dots. Products. Between these two is less than 0. If it is, we... I guess that's going to be this one. We select the vector of our random unit vector, or our random unit vector multiplied by -1. And that should be it. Again, this gives a lot less fine-grained control, because this is just checking, hey, is it within 180 degrees or not? Like, is it the same general direction? If I wanted to make that cone like wider or more narrow, this wouldn't work. Obviously. Wait, does Unreal just have a random cone? Oh, it just has pre-existing functions for this. Random unit vector in cone in degrees. So we have the cone direction. Oh, that's much better. No, never fucking mind any of this. We're just gonna do this. Because now we can just say 180. That should work the same way. But if I want to say, oh, actually, let's make that 90, we can now make that 90. That is so much better. So, the moment of truth, and then we need to start working like on enemies with this as well, which is going to be interesting. Because if it breaks apart when it actually doesn't hit like just a brick wall, I don't know if my mental health can handle that, to be honest with you. There we go. It broke apart on the floor. Most of them will. No, it works. So finally, after all that time, there's still going to be about like half of them that just get instantly destroyed, right? Because they're going to just hit the floor. But that's kind of fine. Because what we're going to do, I think, is we're going to go into Ice Splinter and we're going to set this initial speed to being like 1200 instead. And then in the spawn Ice Splinters, we can now finally add in another one at like, let's make that 0.4 size. And then one last layer, which we actually do need to connect up. One last layer that we're going to make like 0.2 times the size. That does need to be connected up, that makes sense. This needs to actually connect up to the bullets array. Fair enough. Get that done. And then I do think we just increase the amount here. So let's say from like 6 to 9. Just to kind of deal with the fact that it's going to, well, no, maybe. It's a little bit tricky because these are going to be spawning in like... It's actually a really good test now that I think about it. Because what's going to happen is the first is going to hit the wall, about half of which are going to instantly die on the floor. But that's going to then spawn from the floor, isn't it? So maybe we don't even need to do that. Yeah, maybe we don't need to do that. Hold on. Let's do... Do we have like 3 to 5, I think? 2 to 4? We're going to go 3 to 5. And then for the last iteration, I guess we can do a little bit more. We can do 6 to 9. Before we do any of that, let's save. Ice splinters. This might be a mess. Well, that's kind of, yeah. That's kind of what I wanted it to be. Now do imagine that in a contained area. Because right now they are like flying off into nowhere. But if we have that in a contained area with like a ceiling. If we do this. Oh, it is just still flying off into one direction. Hold on. But that seems like it could do some real like, yeah, see, one is like flying back there. Yeah, I kind of like, ooh. Okay, hold on a moment. We do need to check if these things that we're trying to destroy are valid. Yeah, so now the only thing that we really need to do is to spawn these things in the direction that we are facing to begin with. And then test it in a enclosed area. There we go. It does kind of like melt anything that's nearby. Yeah, these enemies specifically have trouble dying. There's also still a... I guess these got destroyed before they could be assigned to, maybe? Doesn't hurt to put an is valid in between there just to be sure. And I guess that also goes for this. They shouldn't be getting destroyed frame 1, but fucking, I don't know. Yeah, so let's just for a moment imagine that we are in an enclosed space like the rest of the game would be. And I don't have like proper walls here necessarily, but I mean, I guess we can... Even so, this space is going to be bigger than most like combat areas in the game, so... The bouncing around of the like shrapnel isn't going to work quite as nicely. It's also going to be fairly dark because obviously no lights. Let's spawn in things that aren't those zombie dudes. Like just a whole bunch of these guys, and then... I didn't spawn anything. There we go. Okay. Then they hit the ceiling, and then they... like, yeah. That happens. It is kind of funny how it does kind of have like a cone of effectiveness in the original direction that I was facing. It doesn't do as much damage as I thought it might, to be honest with you. But again, in like most combat accounts, we're going to probably be in a room that's like a fourth the size of this. Make the splinters do a percentage damage of the base projectile or something, so you can scale it with some kind of attribute, for instance. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Because they just do have a base damage value. So that's easy to implement, I think. Yeah, they have applied damage. They have a base damage value. So we can just... in gameplay ability... yeah, so what we can do is we already have this magic strength, right? Which is setting the base damage initially. So we have magic strength times 10 is the default that I use for everything right now. So we can just kind of, if we like spawn more, and we like give in base damage, what we do is we just multiply base damage by scale. So we only have one value to like give in because I'm lazy. We have that scaled down damage. I think that's probably a good idea because again, it does actually like shred things when it's close to them. Especially if there's like two enemies close to each other, like one explodes and then like 3 of them hit the other enemy, which then spawns in like 10 more, which hit the initial first enemy again. So scaling that a little bit more reasonably is probably a good idea. So yeah, we can just like provide in that base damage this way. And then it gets scaled down through the different iterations. And that's all being driven by my magic stat to begin with. Oh, there we go. I was going to say, we have 3 instances of this, right? So yeah, that's fun. But that's one of those spells that becomes more overpowered the more like crowded things are. Because just with these 4, it's not that bad. But if I just go back and forth between these a couple of times, and it's like super crowded and I do this, that was very anticlimactic. It should start... there we go. That's one of those things where, yeah, it starts dealing like major damage. It's actually not even that bad still. I was expecting that to deal more damage. I need to see this in like context of like the actual game a little bit more, of course. But I was expecting this to be a somewhat broken ability that was going to need to be like very expensive as far as MP goes. But like looking at all this, I don't think that's necessarily gonna be the case. Because a lot of them do also just like kind of fly off, right? Into the ceiling. And by the time they get back down, they've been split up into even more smaller objects. So yeah, the fact that a lot of them kind of get lost in the ground and the floor makes it a pretty reasonable... like the initial shot is one thing, but then the fact that so many of them get lost, like everything after that is just kind of like bonus damage, I guess. I also probably just have a very low magic stat at the moment. Probably just 1. So if we upgrade that, let's see how that does. So magic strength is... oh, I only can go up to 2 because that's where the curve runs. Sure. So that should do about double the damage now. So let's see. It also should probably like auto aim me toward the closest enemy if that's like a valid object. Even then, it's not that like it's not that good. So what I think it should do, maybe. Okay, I think what it should do is what it does now. Maybe it should behave differently against enemies than it does against... Yeah, I think it should. I think against walls, the way that it works now makes sense, because it's just like 180 degrees away from the wall. I think when it hits an enemy, it should be 180 degrees around that enemy's up vector. So if we go back into here, right, we just have our enemy to ignore, the thing that we hit. We can just check if that is a soft. Or I guess we can just do a cast to enemy actually, because that can go into a pure cast. So you just get a bull out of it. And then we can either use the hit normal for this going direction, or we can use the get actor up vector, which I guess always is just going to be the world up vector, essentially. So maybe getting the actor up vector is a little overkill, but we can select based on this. So if this was an enemy, we get the up vector. If it was not an enemy, we get this. Because I feel like what's happening is we're hitting an enemy and then spraying like icicles away from the rest of the enemies. Because the thing that we're going to hit, like naturally, if we are here and we have like a bunch of enemies here, right? We're naturally going to likely hit this one, which means that we're spraying like this direction. Which I don't think is like conducive to the effect that we're looking for. But now, it should. Okay, it did not do that. Hold on. Well, no, I think it did actually. Because if it hits an enemy, can you please fucking hit an enemy? My dude, hit something. Oh, I don't have MP anymore. We are hitting a lot of things now. Mostly walls. I guess I should also actually check whether or not hitting the wall still works the way that it should. I think, yeah, that seems like it still works the way that it should. Okay, hit one of these guys. That still seems like it's just... It's kind of hard to tell, to be honest. Yeah, that's definitely going into all directions, because that one was mainly sending things to behind that enemy. So I think that's working. Okay, the aiming thing is really annoying, and I'm not trying to make like a third-person shooter here, so hold on one gosh darn moment. We're gonna get closest enemy real quick, and if that is valid, can just make that a validated get actually. Hold on, it's gonna need to be two slightly different execution paths. If it is not valid, we just do straightforward, but if it is valid, we get this dude, set actor rotation to find look at rotation between this and that. And that should now automatically rotate me to whatever enemy I'm closest to. So that was an adventure and a half, getting all that sorted out, but here we are. So now it should automatically, yeah, so now it's actually like pretty usable, I would say. There's still a little bit of luck. I think maybe spawning in more shrapnel is actually like a good idea still. So let's go back into our splinters ability, which is a mess. And increase this to like 6 to 9. I think 6 to 9 is actually pretty good, especially if we like compound that over a couple of layers. And then the last layer can be like 14 to 16. This might be a bit too much. Again, because we're compounding this over a couple of layers, tweaking these numbers can go real bad real quick. Because I think at this point we're spawning in like 6 to like 9, which is like actually 7 to 10. So we're like potentially spawning in like, oh yeah, that's probably not good, is it? Yeah, that's, that's probably not that good. Just look at the lag spike when this thing hits. Yeah, that's not fantastic. Like, can we actually like stat FPS this real quick? Hold on. I'm at about 30 FPS, right? One of these fuckers hits, and I go back down to only about 25. It's actually not that bad. That went down to 22. Yeah, so maybe that was a little too much. Let's go back in. Yeah, I don't care. Let's go back in maybe. Dial this back down to 6. Not 69. No, 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 no. 6 to 9, and then this can be like 5 to 7, and then this is 3 to 5. So let's say the averages, which would be 4, get spawned in, which all spawn in 6 more, which is 24, which all spawn in like 7.5 more, so let's say 7, which is still about 140 total. Yeah, so maybe that's still a lot, to be fair. But they won't all get spawned in one frame usually. No, they probably will be getting spawned in fairly quickly after each other, I imagine. But that seems, yeah, okay, so that actually seems like it's not killing my FPS too much. Now, I do gotta check out how that actually like works on Steam Deck, because I feel like when I put this on Steam Deck, it is going to potentially like cause some minor issues. Maybe. But that's, I would say, pretty good. Open to adding some tweaks to, for sure. But icicles are, for now, in the game, at least. Which I think gives a pretty good wrapping up point. So we ended up making only 2 abilities. The first one of which took like 30 minutes, and the other took the remaining 2 hours. So that's fun. I'll be back on Tuesday again. Probably not doing more abilities. We'll see what I feel like doing on Tuesday. Today I also thought I was not going to do more abilities, and then I was like, I don't really feel like doing anything, because I've spent like 5 hours today trying to work on animation stuff and like rigging. And if you're in the Discord, you've seen me bitching about control rigs and how they are broken pieces of shit sometimes. But now that I have the control rig all set up, I'm actually happy with it. So I felt like just doing something like low effort and fun, and then I decided to do this icicle ability because I'm insane. We'll see on Tuesday what I end up going with. I'm thinking maybe we jump into doing some of the turn-based RPG coding. If I don't do it over the weekend, that is. That might be fun. Otherwise, it's been a while since I've just kind of like played through as a test. But I kind of want to not play through as a test until I have more of the like renewed animations in place, which I might also try to do over the weekend. So it kind of depends on what I feel like doing over the weekend, to be honest with you. So there's a couple of things that we could be doing next week, but we'll see. It'll be a surprise. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for helping out with all of your wonderful ideas. Because with object pool them, I could, but I don't know if it's like necessarily worth object pooling for an ability that the player might not be using to begin with, right? Like, if there's a lot of abilities that might be using a system like this where it spawns in a bunch of these things, that might be worth it. But like, why? I don't really feel like object pooling something for only one ability if it isn't like effectively causing issues. So I'm going to test this at some point when I have a like more finished build again to like do a proper like full testing. I'm going to test this as well on Steam Deck. If the Steam Deck causes like lag spikes with it, I might need to like just make an object pool for this one ability only, which players might not even have equipped. Technically, I guess I could like spawn in the object pool as it gets equipped. Might not be a bad idea actually. But if I don't have to 100%, I would rather not go through the effort of object pooling something. So one of, I mean, I did it for the twin stick shooter, admittedly, but the twin stick shooter is something that at least everybody is going to go through, and that's a lot more bullets as well. So maybe we'll end up having to do that. We'll see. If we do, we do. But I'd rather not if I don't have to. See